Welcome everybody to the Nokia 9210i, the phone that folded the industry and bent it to its wheel, carving a niche in the market that hadn't existed before. Pun most certainly intended. I am aware I am not the most knowledgeable person or the most qualified one out there to answer some of the questions that this thing raises in 2026. However, I shall give it a try and, well, I will attempt to find out what this thing represents, why we should care that this foldable phone existed before touchscreen smartphones were mainstream, and, well, hopefully we will find out something meaningful about this forgotten piece of tech. So let's get started. Obviously, the form factor is the most important and impressive aspect of this phone by far. It tries to combine the multitasking abilities of a laptop or a personal digital assistant with the convenience of having a GSM phone. This is nothing novel. However, Nokia's approach was a bit different. You actually do have two devices that are stuck together. The front panel contains the actual phone with a separate screen and a bespoke motherboard with keyboard and all the required components, while the inner side of the phone is dominated by this impressive display and the actual personal digital assistant components on the latter segment of the phone. So these are two distinct devices welded together in the middle. Performance-wise, there's nothing really impressive in 2026 about this phone. It does offer Bluetooth connection, GPRS. It sports a 66 MHz processor inside this marvelous piece of hardware. And, well, the most impressive thing by far is the LED display. It actually introduced the LED backlighting, and it's a huge improvement over this phone's predecessor, which had tubes in the older models. It also came with an eye-watering price tag. At launch, this thing cost about $2,200. I'm even afraid to think what the equivalent in today's money is, but I suspect is well over $5,000. There is also another piece of impressive features. There is also another impressive feature, especially considering its time. This thing offered video playback through Flash 5 support. So I guess right now it's time to put away our rose-tinted glasses and to step off our white horse and stop lauding and admiring this phone and, well, consider it for what it is. We are, as I have stated before, pampered with clinically cut and precision designed glass and metal sandwich devices. We are used to tight tolerances and pretty rigid and responsive and reliable pieces of tech. This, I don't think, is any of the above. Sure, it's well built for the 2000 standards, but now it does feature a bit of a creak, a bit of a bend, and you can see even through my slightly careful movements that this thing is actually a squeak fest. It's all plastic fantastic. And, well, for you plastic specialists out there, you can even see the burrs where the injection molding was performed. So overall, in terms of quality, this is actually not that impressive in 2026. However, my intention is not to judge this device too harshly, and while it does have a certain appeal to me, especially considering it was launched during what could be considered the golden age of Nokia, which gave us such devices as the 8910i, the beautiful titanium built flagship luxury device. Now, value is a bit of a mixed bag in 2026. This thing can be found anywhere from $50 to $500, depending on the condition and, well, the availability of the seller to part with such a device. $50 will not get you a good one, not even a functioning one, and to my opinion, it is debatable whether you could make it function or not. $150 realistically will get you a functioning unit, and well, if you are such inclined, I think it's a justifiable and good value in 2026, especially since these things are quite rare. Considering its initial purchase price and competition from the likes of BlackBerry at a more affordable price range, these things are pretty rare. In 25 years or so of tech hoarding and searching for quirky phones, I have only come across two other Communicator series devices, the 9300 and the 9500, both of which were non-fully functioning ones. So this thing is actually a pretty huge deal for me. Now, whether you should pay $150 for one or not is up for debate, of course. But given the rarity and, well, the scarce availability, I could safely say that it is a justifiable purchase, if not a great deal. However, the worst part of owning such a peculiar and desirable piece of tech is, well, the battery. These things are lithium-ion units, and well, you can't really find them new anymore, or well, spare parts are hard to get, and such a battery would cost you in excess of $60 to $70 at the very least, considering it would be original, and that would not actually guarantee you that it's functioning. Now, this one is obviously depleted, and well, it's not really responding to any inputs. I have tried charging the phone many times over, and while I have managed to operate it in a fairly limited manner while using the power cord, this thing will not hold the charge on its internal battery alone. So what you could do in theory is actually use this battery, dismantle the outer shell, and well, try to replace the inner cells with modern lithium polymer units and make the phone functioning again. So I have here an original Nokia power brick and cord. Let me attempt to plug it in and see whether we can start this thing on. And it's already starting to make some buzzing noise, meaning it shows that it's actually trying to turn on. Let me just place it in such a way that I can show in both cameras that this thing is trying to turn on. And well, you can see the charging progress bar right here. Let's just try turning it on. Now this process is a bit finicky. I'm not sure I will be able to turn the phone on, which is rather disappointing, and that is due to the fact that the battery is depleted in such a way that it does not even offer proper voltage to the phone section of the device in order to power it on. However, the back inner PC unit should be functioning, and there it is. Let me just zoom out so you can see the 9210i in all of its glory. There we go. I shall just confirm the date, and well, as you can see, the device is actually working. Never mind the fact that it's actually a German menu unit, and that, well, I can't really do too much about that since I don't have the proper connection cables to attempt replacing the menu and rewriting the ROM. Never mind that it's also pretty risky at this point, since this thing is pretty valuable. Now, I don't really think there's too much else to be said about this particular Nokia phone. It's a bit of a disappointment that the battery does not work, and in an ideal world I would take my time and try to revive this thing properly with an English menu ROM and, well, try to bring it back to its former glory. On the other hand though, this thing is pretty valuable, and since I am actually struggling to recover all my expensive with this YouTube channel, I will probably sell it along, especially since it came with a pretty interesting accessory, this nice belt pouch, which is original to the phone and fits rather snugly into it. So I have had the good fortune of paying only 40 euros on this particular device, taxing and shipping included, which is it's an actual steal if you think about it. The current value in this condition should be at the very least about 100 euros, and I shall not be greedy and ask too much more. There are some other quirky aspects of this phone, and interesting ones at that. The highlight being this automotive origin heritage aspect. This thing was actually used by an engineer or an important manager at Daimler Chrysler. You can see it right here written on top of the original label inside the actual phone. Now the all-important question, whether you should try finding one for your personal collection or not, I believe that this is actually quite an important device, and well, it should be a key feature, a pivotal member of every tech hoarder's gadget from my generation. If you like GSM phones in the early noughties or the late 1990s, you should definitely consider the Nokia 9210 in your collection. However, if you do not have the resources or the inclination to do so, remember, I buy, hoard and collect weird and quirky obsolete tech stuff like this Nokia 9210i, so you don't have to. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.